For a long time now, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce have seemed like the kind of couple people instantly become fascinated by. Every time they are seen together, whether it's at a game, at an event, or simply walking into a restaurant, the reaction is always huge. Cameras follow them, fans analyze every glance, social media breaks every detail into pieces, and headlines appear almost immediately. From the outside, it has looked like a perfect modern celebrity love story. Two people at the top of their worlds, each wildly successful in a completely different lane, somehow finding each other and making it work in front of millions of people watching. To fans, that image has felt almost untouchable, like a real-life fairy tale playing out in real time. But as always, what the public sees is only part of the story, and new reports suggest that behind the polished appearances and smiling photos, things may be much more complicated than they seem. What makes this story so interesting is that the challenge reportedly facing them is not the kind of drama people usually expect from celebrity couples. It isn't centered around betrayal, scandal, or a dramatic public fallout. It is not about one shocking event that suddenly changes everything. Instead, the issue being discussed is far more layered, far more realistic, and in many ways far more difficult to solve. According to recent reports and ongoing speculation, the tension allegedly growing between them is tied to trust, privacy, and the overwhelming reality of trying to build a future together while living under one of the brightest spotlights in the world. And if that is true, then this may be one of the most serious tests of their relationship so far, not because their feelings for each other are in question, but because fame changes the rules of ordinary life in ways most people can barely imagine. For most couples, the idea of planning a future together is exciting. It can also be stressful, of course, but usually in familiar ways. There are decisions about timing, family expectations, finances, guest lists, travel, and all the tiny details that come with taking a major step forward. For a celebrity couple, though, those ordinary pressures don't stay ordinary for very long. Every choice becomes a story. Every rumor turns into a debate. Every private plan risks becoming public before the couple is even ready to talk about it themselves. And that is reportedly where things are becoming difficult for Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. If the speculation is accurate, one of the biggest issues surrounding their future is not whether they want the same things, but whether they can protect those things from the public before they are ready. That matters because a wedding, or even the planning of a wedding, is deeply personal. It is not supposed to be a public guessing game. It is not supposed to be a social media treasure hunt where strangers try to decode clues from schedules, outfits, location sightings, or the behavior of friends and family. Yet that is often exactly what happens when two people this famous are involved. The moment there is even a hint that a major life event could be happening, online speculation explodes. Fans begin connecting dots, entertainment outlets start quoting unnamed insiders, TikTok theories multiply. Suddenly, something intimate becomes a global spectator event. For someone like Taylor Swift, who has spent most of her adult life having her relationships dissected in public, that kind of attention is not new. But that does not mean it becomes easier. In fact, when the event in question is something as meaningful as a wedding, the pressure may feel even more intense than usual. Taylor has lived under extraordinary scrutiny for years. Nearly every era of her life has been documented, interpreted, criticized, celebrated, and replayed by the public. Her music, her friendships, her romances, her public appearances, and even her silence have all been treated as clues to some larger story the world feels entitled to solve. That kind of attention can distort reality, it can make simple decisions feel strategic, it can make private emotions feel performative, and it can leave someone constantly wondering whether an important life moment will truly belong to them or whether it will be consumed by the public before they get to experience it fully themselves. If reports are correct that Taylor has become especially protective about information connected to her future with Travis, it would make perfect sense. After living under that microscope for so long, why wouldn't she want to keep at least one major chapter of her life from becoming another public frenzy? That desire for privacy is not just about preference. It may also be about self-protection. There is a difference between being admired and being exposed. There is a difference between fans caring about your happiness and feeling entitled to access every part of it. For celebrities, the line between those two things can disappear very quickly. Once that happens, even joy can become stressful. Even exciting milestones can feel vulnerable. Instead of simply celebrating, people begin bracing themselves for leaks, misquotes, speculation, and invasions of personal space. So when reports say that Taylor allegedly wants tight control over who knows what, when they know it, and how much gets out, that doesn't sound like overreaction. It sounds like someone trying to preserve the emotional truth of an important moment before it gets swallowed by the machinery of fame. And that is where Travis Kelce enters the picture in a particularly fascinating way. Travis is unquestionably famous in his own right. He is not new to attention. He is a major NFL star, a household name in sports, and someone who has been in the public eye for years. He understands media coverage, fan attention, and the kind of visibility that comes with elite performance. But according to reports, being with Taylor Swift has introduced him to an entirely different level of public intensity. That does not mean he was unprepared for fame in general. It means Taylor's level of fame exists in a category that very few people truly understand until they are living inside it. There is celebrity, and then there is global cultural phenomenon. Taylor belongs to the second category. Her movements can influence headlines worldwide. Her personal life can become breaking news internationally. Her fan base spans generations and continents. That is a scale of visibility unlike almost anything else. If reports are accurate, Travis is still adjusting to what it really means to operate within that world, especially when it comes to security, privacy, and access. That adjustment is easy to underestimate from the outside. People often assume that if two people are both famous, then they automatically understand each other's circumstances in equal measure. But fame is not one size fits all. The type of exposure an athlete experiences is not identical to the type of exposure a global pop icon experiences. The ecosystems are different. The audience dynamics are different. The emotional demands are different. In sports, intense attention often focuses on performance, wins and losses, off-season moves, and occasional personal storylines. In Taylor's world, nearly every aspect of life can become content. That includes relationships, celebrations, friendships, travel, style choices, and even body language. So, if Travis has reportedly been surprised by some of the privacy measures and security protocols surrounding her life, that should not be read as weakness or conflict. It may simply reflect the reality that he is navigating a world more intense than the one he was used to, even as someone already very famous. That shift could naturally create tension even if the relationship itself remains strong. Not because either person is doing something wrong, but because major lifestyle difference requires adaptation. If one partner has lived for years with an extreme need for boundaries, while the other is still learning how deeply those boundaries affect everyday life, moments of friction are almost inevitable. That friction might show up in simple questions that become emotionally loaded. Who can be trusted with certain information? Which friends are told first? How many people should be involved in planning? What kind of location would feel secure enough? How public should their movements be before and after the event? How much can family members know without risking leaks, intentional or not? These are not typical relationship conversations, but for two people this visible, they may become central. What makes this especially compelling is that these alleged tensions do not necessarily point to a lack of love. In fact, the opposite may be true. Sometimes the hardest challenges in a relationship appear precisely when two people are trying to protect something real. The more meaningful the relationship becomes, the more pressure there is to guard it carefully. That is what can make privacy issues so complicated. They are not always about suspicion in the dramatic sense. They are often about fear of losing control over something precious. If Taylor is deeply concerned about keeping major plans private, and if Travis is learning just how tightly that privacy needs to be managed, then the real story may not be that they are drifting apart. It may be that they are being forced to confront, in a very serious way, what it actually takes to build a shared life under extraordinary scrutiny. And that scrutiny is relentless. One of the defining features of modern celebrity culture is that there is no real off switch. In an earlier era, public figures could disappear between projects or seasons. They could retreat from view for a while. Now the cycle never really stops. Social media, fan accounts, gossip channels, paparazzi images, and entertainment blogs keep the conversation going constantly. Every appearance becomes material, every absence becomes material too. If Taylor and Travis are seen together, people analyze how close they stand, how they look at each other, what they are wearing, and whether anyone seems tense. If they are not seen together, people speculate that something must be wrong. In that kind of environment, even a perfectly normal relationship would struggle to breathe. That is why the topic of wedding speculation carries such unusual weight. A wedding is not just another date night or red carpet appearance. It represents permanence, commitment, and a deeply emotional milestone. The public knows that, and that is exactly why the curiosity intensifies. Fans want to know if it is happening, when it is, where it is happening, who will attend, and what it will look like. But the more valuable the event feels to the public imagination, the more vulnerable it becomes to intrusion. That creates a paradox for celebrity couples. The more people root for their happiness, the more invasive the atmosphere around that happiness can become. The desire to celebrate the couple can become part of the pressure threatening the intimacy of the moment itself. There is also an important emotional layer here that people often overlook. When someone has spent years turning personal experience into art, as Taylor has, the world can begin to feel as though it has a stake in her emotional life. Fans feel close to her because her music has been the soundtrack to their heartbreak, hope, growth, and healing. That connection is powerful and meaningful, but it can also blur boundaries. People may feel they know her deeply, even if they have never met her. They may feel invested in her choices in ways that go beyond ordinary celebrity interest. So when major life developments begin to unfold, the curiosity around them is not passive. It is emotional, intense, and sometimes overwhelming. For Taylor, that may make privacy even harder to secure because the demand for access comes not only from media outlets or paparazzi, but from a massive global audience that feels personally connected to her journey. Travis, meanwhile, has likely experienced his own version of this shift. Dating someone at Taylor's level of fame means stepping into a narrative that is already bigger than either person individually. Suddenly, he is not just being discussed as an athlete. He is being examined as one half of a cultural obsession. Everything he says, wears, posts, or does can be interpreted through the lens of the relationship. That can be flattering, but it can also be exhausting. It changes the meaning of visibility. It turns ordinary behavior into material for storytelling. It increases the stakes of every public appearance. And if reports are correct that he has been caught off guard by the intensity of the security and privacy environment around Taylor, that adjustment may be about more than logistics. It may also be psychological. It is one thing to know you are dating someone world famous. It is another thing to experience all the invisible systems required to protect that reality. Security, after all, is not glamorous when you are the one living with it. To outsiders, it may sound like luxury or excess. But for people who genuinely need it, security is often the price of normalcy. It dictates where you can go, how you can travel, who gets access, how plans are made, and how much spontaneity is possible. Over time, those constraints shape daily life. They affect trust. They affect timing. They affect emotional freedom. Taylor has dealt with serious security concerns in the past, and that history likely influences how she thinks about any major life event now. If the reports about her protectiveness are true, they may not come from secrecy for secrecy's sake. They may come from real experience, from moments that taught her how quickly personal safety can become fragile when public curiosity goes too far. That matters because weddings are especially vulnerable events. They involve locations, dates, transportation, vendors, guest communication, and a large number of moving parts. Every additional detail increases the risk of exposure. Every person who knows something becomes another possible leak point. And for a couple like Taylor and Travis, even a small leak could trigger chaos. A whispered rumor online could lead to paparazzi staking out locations. A guest venue could attract crowds. A premature report could distort the timeline and force last-minute changes. In that context, privacy is not just emotional comfort. It is operational necessity. It may be the only way to preserve both safety and meaning. That could explain why trust reportedly sits at the center of this story. Trust in this case may not mean mistrust between Taylor and Travis. It may mean the much harder question of who around them can be trusted with sensitive information. Inner circles become incredibly important when stakes are this high. Friends, family, assistants, planners, and business associates all become part of the equation. A casual mention to the wrong person can turn into a media frenzy. Even innocent excitement can lead to exposure. So if tensions are growing, they may be rooted in different instincts about openness. One person may be used to including more people in big moments. The other may feel safest keeping the circle extremely small until the very last second. Neither instinct is automatically wrong. But balancing them requires honesty, patience, and a shared understanding of what is at risk. This is where the relationship may be facing a very adult, very real test. Public fascination tends to reduce celebrity relationships to simple questions. Are they together or not? Are they happy or not? Are they engaged or not? But real relationships are not that binary. Two people can be deeply committed and still face difficult conversations. They can be in love and still struggle with pressure. They can agree on the big picture while clashing over how to protect it. In fact, those are the kinds of challenges that often reveal the true strength of a couple. Not the smiling photos, not the viral clips, not the glamorous public support, but the private ability to navigate stress without losing each other in the process. And to be fair, much of what is being discussed remains speculative. Neither Taylor nor Travis has publicly confirmed these details. They have not stepped forward to explain how they are handling their future or whether any of the reported tensions are even accurate. That silence has its own significance. In a media culture built on constant reaction, choosing not to respond can be a powerful statement. It can mean many things. It can mean the reports are exaggerated. It can mean the couple refuses to validate rumor cycles. It can mean they are intentionally protecting whatever is actually happening behind the scenes. Whatever the reason, their silence suggests that they are not interested in letting public pressure dictate the terms of their relationship. That restraint is important because it reflects a larger truth about celebrity culture today. The internet often stakes access for understanding. People see photographs, clips, and headlines and assume they know the emotional reality behind them. But public visibility does not equal private truth. A smiling appearance does not prove that everything is perfect, and a rumor of tension does not prove that something is falling apart. Often, the reality lies somewhere far more nuanced. Two people may be happy and still overwhelmed. They may be united and still under strain. They may be planning a future while also learning how difficult it is to protect that future from the outside world. That more nuanced possibility is rarely as exciting to gossip culture as a scandal or a breakup, but it is often much closer to the truth. In many ways, the real story here is not about celebrity romance at all. It is about what happens when love collides with surveillance-level attention. Most people will never know what it feels like to have a relationship discussed by millions in real time. Most people will never have to think about security strategy while imagining a wedding. Most people will never have to weigh whether a trusted guest might accidentally become the source of a global headline. But those pressures are normal for people at this level of fame. And that changes everything. It changes how decisions are made. It changes how joy is experienced. It changes how vulnerability feels. When the world is always watching, even the happiest moments can carry fear. That fear does not have to destroy a relationship, but it does force a couple to become incredibly intentional. If Taylor and Travis are truly navigating the issues people are speculating about, then they are likely confronting questions that demand maturity. Can they create a private world inside an intensely public life? Can they agree on what must be protected and how? Can they support each other through different comfort levels with exposure? Can they handle outside noise without allowing it to become inside tension? Those are not glamorous questions, but they are the ones that matter. They are the questions that determine whether a relationship can survive not just public admiration, but public pressure. Fans, of course, are watching every move. That is unlikely to change anytime soon. The fascination surrounding this couple exists because they represent something larger than celebrity gossip. They symbolize a crossover between two enormous cultural worlds. Taylor brings music, storytelling, emotional mythology, and a fan base unlike almost any other. Travis brings sports fame, charisma, mainstream appeal, and his own public identity as a confident, successful star. Together, they create a kind of supercharged narrative that people find irresistible. Every sighting feels meaningful, every rumor feels loaded, every update becomes an event. That kind of attention can be flattering, but it can also trap a relationship inside the expectations of strangers. And strangers always want a clean story. They want either the perfect romance or the dramatic unraveling. They want certainty, not complexity. But complexity is exactly what this moment appears to be about. If reports are to be believed, the issue is not whether Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce care about each other. The issue is whether two people at the center of enormous public fascination can protect the most intimate parts of their lives without being consumed by the very audience cheering them on. That is not a small challenge. It may actually be one of the hardest parts of their relationship because it cannot be solved with one conversation or one announcement. It requires boundaries, discipline, trust, and constant vigilance. There is something deeply human about that. Strip away the fame, the money, the headlines, and what remains is a familiar emotional truth. Everyone wants their most meaningful moments to feel real. Everyone wants to feel safe while stepping into a new chapter. Everyone wants to know that the people around them can be trusted with what matters most. The difference is that for most people, the consequences of a broken boundary are limited to a circle of family and friends. For Taylor and Travis, a broken boundary can become international news in minutes. That scale magnifies every concern. It makes small decisions feel enormous. It adds pressure to moments that should feel joyful, and it forces them to think not just like a couple, but like protectors of their own emotional space. That may be why this story resonates beyond celebrity gossip. It taps into a larger question about whether privacy is still possible in the modern world, especially for people whose identities are also public brands. When fame becomes constant, where does the real self go? Where do genuine relationships live? How do you keep love from becoming content? Those questions matter not only for stars like Taylor and Travis, but for anyone trying to maintain authenticity in an age of performance. Their situation is extreme, but it reflects a pressure many people understand in smaller ways: the tension between what is shared and what is sacred. And if there is one thing Taylor's career has shown, it is that she understands the value of narrative control. She has spent years learning how the world tells stories about her, sometimes unfairly, sometimes inaccurately, and often without her permission. That experience may be shaping how she approaches this chapter. A wedding is not just a headline, it is not just an image, it is not just a trend. It is a memory, a commitment, and a personal milestone that should belong first to the people living it. If she is determined to keep that moment from being stolen by speculation, that instinct is not only understandable, it may be essential. The question is whether the systems around her and the people involved in planning such a major event can actually deliver the privacy she wants. For Travis, this may also be a moment of learning what partnership really means at this level. Love in public can look glamorous, but partnership in private often looks like adaptation. It looks like listening to concerns you may not have fully understood before. It looks like accepting rules that seem intense until you realize why they exist. It looks like choosing the health of the relationship over the convenience of openness. If he is indeed adjusting to Taylor's world in real time, then this moment could become a turning point. Not because it proves something is wrong, but because it reveals what commitment actually requires when life is anything but normal. At the same time, it is possible that the outside world is amplifying ordinary planning stress into a bigger story than it really is. That often happens with famous couples. A normal disagreement becomes evidence of crisis. A practical decision becomes a rumor of conflict. A privacy measure becomes a sign of distrust. Public speculation thrives on escalation. It rarely rewards moderation. So even if there is truth to the idea that planning and privacy have created pressure, that does not mean the relationship is in danger. It may simply mean they are experiencing what many couples do when major life steps become real, except under vastly more intense circumstances. Still, the atmosphere around them ensures that even minor tension becomes major entertainment. That is one of the most difficult things about fame. You lose the right to have a normal rough patch. You lose the right to quietly figure things out. You lose the freedom to be imperfect without an audience building a theory around it. For Taylor and Travis, that means every decision is doubly heavy. They are not only managing their own emotions, they are managing what those emotions might look like if glimpsed, leaked, or misread by the world. That kind of pressure can be exhausting in ways people outside celebrity culture rarely appreciate. It is also worth remembering that some of the strongest relationships are not the ones that look easiest from the outside. They are the ones that learn how to protect themselves from outside demands. They are the ones that understand not everything important needs to be explained. They are the ones that resist the urge to perform stability and instead quietly build it. If Taylor and Travis are doing that right now, their silence may be less mysterious than people think. It may simply be the healthiest choice available. In a world hungry for details, withholding details can be an act of care. That does not stop the speculation, of course. If anything, mystery often intensifies it. The less confirmed information the public has, the more aggressively people try to fill in the blanks. That creates a cycle that can feel impossible to escape. The couple says nothing, so rumors grow. The rumors grow, so the pressure for comment increases. If they respond, the cycle is fed. If they do not, the cycle mutates anyway. It is a no-win structure, and the only real defense is a strong internal sense of what matters more, public curiosity or private peace. For people as visible as Taylor and Travis, choosing private peace may be one of the most radical things they can do. What fans are really witnessing then may not be a relationship in trouble, but a relationship being tested by scale. Scale of fame, scale of expectation, scale of intrusion. Scale changes everything. A regular couple can decide on a venue based on beauty, convenience, or family tradition. A couple like this must also think about security logistics, information containment, crowd control, and media risk. A regular couple can share news with loved ones as they go. A couple like this may have to delay sharing even with people they care about, simply to minimize exposure. A regular couple can experience excitement organically. A couple like this may have to protect excitement behind layers of strategy. That does not make their relationship less real. If anything, it may make their effort to preserve it even more meaningful. And perhaps that is why people remain so invested. Beneath the gossip and fascination, there is something compelling about watching two very public people try to build something private. It challenges the idea that fame can satisfy everything. It reminds us that no amount of success erases the basic human need for trust, safety, intimacy, and control over one's most important moments. People may be drawn to the glamour of this couple, but the real emotional hook is the vulnerability underneath it. Can love still feel normal when nothing else about life is? Can commitment survive when every step toward it becomes a spectacle? Can a private promise remain private in a world determined to turn it into content? Those questions do not have easy answers. And maybe that is why this story continues to grow. It is not just about whether a wedding is happening. It is about whether the couple can preserve the emotional meaning of such a moment if it does. It is about whether fame always wins access or whether boundaries can still hold. It is about whether two people can create a protected space for themselves even when the world feels invited to comment on every detail of their lives. In that sense, this may be one of the most revealing chapters of their relationship so far, because it is not about romance in the easy cinematic sense. It is about romance in the real sense, the difficult sense, the sense that asks what people are willing to do to keep something true. And through all of this, one thing remains undeniable. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce continue to be one of the most talked about couples on the planet. Their names generate interest instantly. Their appearances dominate conversations. Their future is treated like a cultural event rather than a private journey. That level of attention is unlikely to fade anytime soon. If anything, it may grow stronger with every new rumor, every public outing, and every unanswered question. But attention alone does not determine outcomes. Public fascination does not define private commitment. Headlines can create narratives, but they cannot fully explain what two people are building behind closed doors. So the real question is not whether people are watching. They clearly are. The real question is whether Taylor and Travis can hold on to what matters while everyone else tries to get closer to it. Can they keep trust stronger than noise? Can they make privacy more powerful than speculation? Can they protect a milestone that for most couples would already feel overwhelming even without global attention attached to it? Those are the stakes being implied by the latest reports. Not scandal, not betrayal, not collapse, but the hard and often invisible work of trying to keep love intact inside a world that constantly reaches for pieces of it. Maybe that is what makes this story feel so much bigger than a simple celebrity rumor. It reflects something uncomfortable about modern culture itself. We celebrate love publicly, but often consume it possessively. We claim to admire boundaries, but reward invasiveness with clicks and attention. We say we want stars to be happy, but we often make privacy hardest for them at the exact moments when privacy matters most. Taylor and Travis are simply living that contradiction at the highest possible level. They are the latest reminder that being adored by the world does not guarantee peace within it. In the end, nobody outside their inner circle truly knows what is happening. The reports may be partially true, completely exaggerated, or somewhere in between. The details may be less dramatic than the internet wants them to be. Or they may be very real, but being handled quietly and carefully by two people determined not to let outside voices define the moment. What we do know is this: they have remained publicly supportive of each other, they have not fueled the rumors with comment after comment, and they continue to protect the parts of their relationship they choose not to share. In a culture of overexposure, that may say more than any statement ever could. So while the world keeps refreshing for updates, searching for clues, and debating what every rumor might mean, the deeper truth may be much simpler. Love at this level of fame is not tested only by emotion, it is tested by exposure. It is tested by trust, by restraint, by patience, and by the ability to decide that some moments are worth guarding no matter how badly the world wants access to them. If Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are truly facing that challenge right now, then they are confronting one of the most difficult realities of public life. Not whether they care for each other, but whether they can protect what they care about from everything that comes with being who they are. And perhaps that is the answer fans should sit with most carefully. Not every silence means trouble. Not every boundary means distance. Not every rumor signals a collapse. Sometimes privacy is not a sign that something is breaking. Sometimes it is the clearest sign that something matters enough to protect. And if that is the case here, then the story is not about a fairy tale falling apart. It is about two people trying, in the middle of impossible attention, to keep one of life's biggest moments from becoming public property before it has even had the chance to belong to them.